Years ago, Charlie bought his son some light-up shoes from a thrift store. He'd picked them out of the discount bin, surprised that they still worked. Charlie's son loved the shoes and wore them to school every day. One night, after he had put his son to bed, he went inside his room and took out his tablet to read a book and to listen to some music. Charlie finishes a page and reaches over for his glass of water, but he can't help but to be drawn to the movement out of the corner of his eye. His head snaps to the doorway, where he thought he'd spotted something glow. He looks at the doorway, annoyed, thinking his son is up past his bedtime. Charlie pops out his earbuds and gets out of bed. After clearing the house and finding nothing out of the ordinary, he returns to his son's room. Strangely, the door was open, despite him closing it previously. Charlie was puzzled, but decided to return to bed, closing the door to his son's room once more. In the morning, he wakes up early to get his son ready for school. He starts on their breakfast, setting a pan down on the stovetop. Charlie opens the door to the refrigerator, but when he reaches for the eggs, he spots his son's light-up shoes. He tells his son not to put his shoes there and how he'd heard him the previous night. His son explains that he was never up in the night and left his shoes in the room when he went to bed. Charlie had already instructed his son to get dressed before they ate. He was unable to find his light-up shoes, so he put on some other sneakers he had in the closet instead. He takes his son to the bus and sends him off to school. Sometime later, Charlie finishes cleaning up from breakfast. He takes the light-up sneakers and returns them to his son's shoe rack. Charlie goes outside and collects his newspaper. He pours some coffee and begins reading at his kitchen table. After flipping through the first couple of pages, he hears a thud, like the sound of a door hitting the doorstop. He jumps out of his chair, his head swiveling to locate the source of the noise. The sound of someone running on the stairs echoed from down the hall. Charlie reaches toward the knife block and grabs the largest kitchen blade he has. His heart pounding, he peeks around the hall where he can see the bottom of the first steps. He doesn't see anything at first, but as he approaches, he spots the light-up shoes still blinking, sat on the middle of the stairs. As he stared at the shoes, he felt goosebumps form on his skin as the blinking stopped. "Hello?" Charlie says in an anxious voice. The sneakers start moving. Charlie leaps back as they animate. The shoes turn and walk down the stairs on their own. The neon lights bounce off the walls as it makes its way toward him. Charlie holds his kitchen knife, gripping it as he backs up. The shoes walk past him and make their way back into his son's room. When Charlie peers back into the room, he sees the sneakers kick all the other shoes from the rack, toppling them to the floor. And as Charlie mouths some profanities, they jump up and place themselves back on the top of the shoe stand. Charlie's mind raced as the vibrant colors of the lights once again dissipate. The shoes sit idle, menacingly frozen, as if they were peering back at Charlie. Charlie slowly approaches the shoes, knife still in hand. He grabs them and starts inspecting them, his eyes still not believing what he just witnessed. Charlie undoes the flap at the bottom and removes the batteries. "I've got to get rid of you," he says in a more commanding voice. He grabs a spare shoebox and tapes it shut, walking down his driveway and chucking the box into the garbage can. After his son got home from school, he makes up a story about how the shoes were faulty and needed to be thrown away. Charlie promises his son a new pair of light-up shoes over the weekend, and they get started on his homework assignments. Later in the night, after having dinner, he tucks his son into bed and reads him a nice bedtime story. He gives his son a kiss on the head goodnight and closes his door, returning to the kitchen. As Charlie sits in the wooden chair at the table, he looks out of the window. At the end of his driveway, he peers at the garbage can, now illuminated from the interior, with a small, distant, blinking light.